now, WTOE Radio Live, brought to you by ThroughOurEyes.org.
Welcome to Looking Good Without Looking, an interactive live show about fashion and personal style with your host, Linda Zani Thomas. Linda is the author of the Looking Good Without Looking Guides to Personal Style for Men and Women, published in the Braille Monitor. Get the latest fashion news, makeup trends, and shopping scoops, plus expert advice on bringing out the best in you.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, to Sunday. Get with us. You know what we say, party every day, party every day, and I'm feeling.
Here's Linda.
It's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night.
Of Looking Good Without Looking. Many of you are joining us tonight for the first time. Many fans of Dawn Puente, our guest, fans of Johanna, myself, Lenny, and Lori back in our studio somewhere in northern New Jersey. We want to welcome you to the show. This is a show for men, women, and teens. It's watched by people and listened to in podcast version by people all across the country. It is for people who have vision and do not have vision, because remember, whether you have full vision, low vision, or no vision, we can all be personal style icons. What is going on in the world right now? We've gone photography and camera crazy. Everyone is getting their 15 minutes of fame, whether they're filming themselves and putting shots and film up on YouTube, LinkedIn, Skyping, Instagram, Facebook. Photography is all the rage, and capturing yourself on film, still or moving, is all the rage right now. However, many of us are woefully unprepared for how to look our best under camera lighting conditions, which are very, very tricky, and also how to apply makeup, and this goes for guys too, to look your best. Let me give you an example of why this show is so important for everybody. And I want you to feel free to call in at any time during the show to have some of your questions answered by our guest or by us. You can call in anytime, toll free at 888-572-0141, and we'll repeat that number throughout the show. Let me tell you why it's important. Because now employers are actually doing Skype interviews before they have you come in for interviews. So it's extremely important that you know how to put your best face forward. You have to master the equipment. It's not that difficult, but it can be, as Johanna and I know, and some of our guests. It can be tricky to get the settings right, but it's also something that you have to work on with a little bit of lighting magic. And you have to know how to sit, and you have to know how to look. And for guys and gals, we're going to give you great tips that's going to help you land that job, look great for your friends and family, and always put your best face forward. But more on that later when we have special guest, Dawn Puente, who is a makeup artist. She is a cosmetics buyer, and she is the cosmetics manager at Town & Country Apothecary in Ridgewood, New Jersey. This is a wonderful, wonderful store. She is fantastic. She is so knowledgeable. She's so patient. She's so kind. And she's just a beauty. And we will be hearing from her later on in the show, and she will be taking your questions live. She is going to be speaking about Smashbox Cosmetics. Smashbox is a brand that's been around maybe about 15 years. Started in 1990 by David and Dean Factor, the grandsons of Max Factor. They had a string of photo and film studios in California, and they had a lot of photographers, starlets, stars come through there, and they ended up actually developing their own cosmetics line that worked very well with the new HD photography and all the changes that have come across in the industry. That line of cosmetics, Smashbox, was sold in 2010 to Estee Lauder and is continuing to break new ground. Johanna and I are both wearing some Smashbox Cosmetics that we bought from Dawn, and we'll talk to you more about it later. This show is for guys, it's for ladies. Don't feel funny that we're talking about makeup, because we're going to be talking about some colorless products guys can use to take the years off them and look their best. And let's continue with our theme of guys, which we always dedicate to Lenny. There's a couple of things going on right now in What's Hot Now in the tips and trends category. Guys, the hottest haircut is the comb over. And I know that Lenny will, when he gets a chance, put up a photo of, I believe it is of David Beckham in this comb over haircut. It's not a comb over like Thurston Howell III had in Gilligan's Island, or that Donald Trump has. It's actually a hairstyle that's a little bit short on one side and very long and like droopy on the other. It's almost kind of like my hairstyle right now if it was like real short at the sides. Oh, okay, well, he does not have a picture, but however, everyone can visualize David Beckham. I think we all can. The hairstyle is something that is kind of expensive to do, but it is all the trend among 20-something guys. So if you want to get a trendy hairstyle, that I would say is the number one trendy hairstyle. And also for guys, there's something else that's that's really come about right now that's very interesting, is that all the shirts for guys look like they came right out of a Crayola box of crayons. They are seriously bright, almost primary colors. Now, can everyone wear these bright primary colors? No, they cannot. When you're wearing a brightly colored shirt, you have to be careful that the color really looks good on you. And I will tell you right now that if you are a blonde or an ash blonde or have gray hair, guys, do not wear these brightly colored shirts. They are really for people that have more contrast. So they are deep brunettes or dark golden browns and redheads. You can pull off these colors. And the colors are very, very bright. So for example, it could be a royal blue. That's a very, very big color for guys. If you have black hair or really you're a deep brunette, that color will look great on you. If you have more of a golden tone to your brown hair or you're a redheaded guy, definitely go for something like a bright teal color. That will look excellent on you. Everybody else, stick to something a little more muted. I am wearing, you will see my lovely co-host, Johanna Bakan, on the show momentarily. And Johanna is wearing a light blue shirt. I am wearing kind of a deeper blue. We're going to be talking a little bit about the significance of these shirts later when we get into how to look best for Skype. We learned today from Lenny that maybe a darker blue looks better on Skype.
I have to interrupt you, Linda, on the air.
Go ahead. I can hear you.
It's okay. I know. So can everybody. It's kind of ironic that when we're going to be talking about Skype and the best picture quality is when you now have the worst picture quality.
I do?
Yeah. We started off fine, but in so far the show, something happened to your Skype, and the picture does not look good.
So how interesting.
We'll have to just tell the audience, don't go by what they see at the moment. During our 30-second break later on, 4-minute break at the halfway mark, we'll call you back and we'll see if we can fix it, okay?
Okay, but while we're rolling, because this is a live show, everybody, and we roll with the punches all the time, believe me, right, Lenny? Everything happens to us during the show and before it. But I want to say, how interesting is that? Now, if I was on a Skype interview right now, and the person said to me, I can't hear you, I can't see you very well, I would just try to keep going with them and just say, oh, I'm so sorry about that. Perhaps we can have a Skype call a little later. It might be an interference, but I would keep going. I wouldn't get rattled, just like I didn't get rattled when Lenny told me that now. And believe me, we have done a lot to make sure this show will appear great. Sometimes you just don't know people and you have to roll with the punches. But you have to feel confident that you did everything, including putting the right cosmetics on and working on the lighting and wearing the color that you should. 2-minute break is coming up. I would like, after the 2-minute break, Lenny, I want to do the Pantone colors for fall, but I'll just rip through a couple of trends happening right now for the ladies. Ladies, this fall, if you want to buy one thing that is going to be trendy and put you right on trend, get a piece, a shirt, preferably a peplum top, if you look good in that, with some kind of faux leather on it. They're doing a lot of pieced faux leather on tops right now, and pants and dresses. You'll see what I mean when you go in the stores. It's all over, like a Ponte knit with a faux leather insert somewhere on it, whether it be the pockets or right down the front. Fit and flare dresses are also very, very in right now. Animal prints continue to be in. We're going to go over the colors in a couple of minutes. I just want you to know that the next show is September 25th. On it, we are going to be talking about the Italian garden store in Cape May, which has an exclusive line of products from Italy. And we're also going to be talking about jewelry designer Mikhail Negrin and her first freestanding store at Garden State Mall in Paramus. But right now, we are going to take a small break. And when we come back, we are going to have the lovely and talented Johanna Bacan join us. And stay tuned, Dawn Puente fans. Dawn will be joining the show in a little bit as well. See you in a few minutes.
We'll be right back with more of Looking Good Without Looking right after these messages.
Let's do it. Here we come, here we go. We gotta rock. Easy come, easy go. Now we on top. Feel the shot, body rock. Rockin', don't stop. Round and round, up and down, around the clock.
Global warming is here. The effects may seem slight now,
but in a few decades, they could be massive. What can we do? We can join together, because when many unite as one,
we can achieve anything.
Find out how we can still reduce greenhouse gas pollution. Go to fightglobalwarming.com. Brought to you by Environmental Defense, the Robertson Foundation, and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Judy. And my name is Johnny. We're 10 years old and we're blind. Our dreams are to become scientists.
My name is Catherine. I'm 24 years old and I'm blind. I'm currently in law school, and one day I dream of becoming an attorney.
My name is Bill. I'm 74 years old and I've just become blind. My dream is to remain independent in my own home and not have to go to a nursing home just because I'm blind.
The National Federation of the Blind of New York has been helping blind people achieve their dreams since 1956. Help keep their dream machine running and visit blindnewyorkers.org to make a donation. You can also call them at 718-567-7821. Blind people are your neighbors and colleagues, so learn more about blindness and make your contribution today. Go to blindnewyorkers.org or call 718-567-7821. The National Federation of the Blind of New York. Today's dreams can become tomorrow's realities.
The audience at the Apollo is twice as likely.
The people at my family reunion are twice as likely.
My classmates at Morehouse College are twice as likely.
Many listeners to this radio station are twice as likely.
It's called the odds.
And the odds are African Americans are nearly twice as likely to suffer a stroke as white Americans.
There are steps you can take to help beat the odds. Start by calling 1-888-4-STROKE or go to strokeassociation.org. Join the power to end stroke. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Back to Looking Good Without Looking. Here's Linda.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I apologize for Skype because it seems like my picture quality might not be that great, But be rest assured, I am still a tall, willowy blonde. I haven't changed a bit. Okay, see what I said? You can't let it, we have to roll with the punches. And speaking about rolling with the punches, is my darling co-host ready, Lenny? Hi, Johanna.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
Apparently, I'm all breaking up a little bit over here. How are you?
Okay.
Oh, you look beautiful. I see you. You look great. All right, Johanna. As you know, everything that can happen will happen on live TV. And let's ask people to call in if they would like. It is 888-572-0141. So please call in if you would like to ask any of us a question. And how are you, Johanna?
I'm just great. I want to say happy birthday to my mom. She's 94 today.
Oh, wow.
And I want to wish her many happy and healthy birthdays to come.
Oh, that's great, Johanna. Tell her happy birthday. And Lenny has a message for you, Johanna. If you can bring your microphone just a little bit closer.
Oh, okay.
I can't hear you. And I want to say happy birthday to your mom. And Johanna, how excited are you about our guest today?
Very excited. I
now
saw
tell
Dawn
us
today.
Go ahead.
Dawn, I went to Town and Country today because I was going to have a lesson with Dawn on how to put this makeup on myself. But we had to change our appointment, but she was able to put the makeup on for me. And I'm wearing totally Smashbox. And I like it. It feels great on the skin. It's light. Everyone said I looked great. And I'm very interested in going back and learning how to do it myself.
Johanna, for those who are visually impaired out there, what do you like the most, or one of the things you like the most about Town and Country Apothecary in Ridgewood?
Well, Town and Country in Apothecary in Ridgewood is very accessible. There's the train, there's the bus line, and you could also get Access Link into Ridgewood. So it's very accessible. But it's also a great place for someone who does have sight if you don't want to go to the mall. They have the latest cosmetics, almost all of the lines that they carry in a department store. And Dawn is just terrific in teaching you what you need, how to put it on, why you should put it on. She's just fabulous.
She sure is, and we're going to be getting to Dawn in a few minutes. But Lenny, do you happen to have the graphic of Pantone's colors for fall? Okay, I'm going to start. All right, Johanna, are you ready for one of our favorite segments when Pantone changes their colors?
Yes, we need a drum roll.
We did drum roll. We'll drive Lenny crazy if we do that. Okay, here they are. I went over the bright shirts. What did you think about the bright shirts for guys?
Well, I totally agree, with what I've been taught by you, even though I can't see it exactly, is that the bright shirts definitely need a contrast in hair color. I don't think the bright shirts with the gray hair would go well.
I don't either. Too overwhelming. Okay, Johanna, Lenny's going to put up the color palette, and I will walk you through it, okay?
Okay.
Now, as always, you get to decide which color goes first. Deep brunette, golden brown redheads, warm blondes, or ash blonde gray?
Let's do the ash blonde gray since we said those bright colors were not good.
Okay, let's. All right. Ash blonde, if you have a cool tone to your hair, like a Taylor Swift's hair color she's actually a cool blonde. This is a type that can't have too much contrast, like we just talked about before with the bright Crayola crayon shirts. But ladies and guys, the two colors that they're showing are really a green that's almost like a teal aqua green. They call it emerald, but it's a little bit different. It's showing up in the stores a little bit different color. It's a little bit more tealy. And those of you with vision can see I have the chart here. That is actually the first color to the left. Also a kind of a medium gray, very pretty, soft, cashmere color called Turbulence. And Turbulence is actually a little circle over by the leaves on the right-hand side of the color chart. They are showing that. As always, if you would like to see these colors almost exact to the Pantone, but a different name, go to Macy's and go to the ink line, and you will see that they follow this color chart. Lenny is doing a nice close-up of this chart and kind of scrolling it right now. Let's take warm blondes next, Johanna. You ready?
Yes, I am.
There is one color that they're showing for warm blondes. Ooh, they're not getting the goods this time. Okay, that color is called linden green. And that color is sort of a lighter green, sort of a light sage green. They call that linden green. So as you can see, 2013, the color of the year was emerald, and the greens continue to delight in many, 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 many ways. All right, golden brown and red-headed people. Now, Johanna and I are really deep brunettes, so we'll get to us last. But if you have a golden brown hair, like you're a deep, like chocolate brown or cocoa brown hair, or you have red hair, or you have sort of a dark blonde with a lot of warm highlights, these colors are for you, and they're really fantastic, Johanna. The first one is called Koi. That is the color of goldfish. It's like a golden orange, really, really pretty. That's an awesome color. It's not a totally, red orange. It's a very pretty color, like a goldfish color. That Lenny is showing. Next to it is deep lichen green. Deep lichen green is actually a deeper, more of a grayish warm green than the linden green. But it's very, very pretty. Carafe, which is a chocolate brown, and Mykonos blue, which is a darker blue, maybe a little bit of warmth to it. Now, we talked a little bit before about Skype and how it messes with the colors. Pretty much the color that I'm wearing now is really Mykonos blue. It's probably showing a little bit different. That's why I wore it. I know how it appears on camera, and a lot of the anchor people and people that are on talk shows, etc., they like to wear blue when they're on air. There's something about blue that is always a good go-to. So I am wearing a deeper blue. Johanna is wearing a lighter blue. Now, it's very interesting because when people are getting interviewed on Skype, one of the things they have to do would be, of course, to wear a shirt like Johanna is wearing, like a lighter blue shirt. But perhaps we learned today from Lenny, perhaps we should go a little deeper if you're going to be on Skype. Even if you normally, that light blue pastel shirt shows up in real life, it may not show up so well on the screen, right, Johanna?
All right.
Yeah, we didn't know that. So there's a lot of different tricks. If you have any questions, you have something big coming up, you have a wedding, you're meeting someone and you want to Skype or you have an interview, let Johanna and I know, and we'll walk you through things a little bit, just given the knowledge that we have, and a lot of it gleaned from Lenny over the years. So we'll be happy to help you with that. All right, Johanna, ready for our colors?
Yes, I am.
Okay. The first one is named after you, Vivacious.
Wow.
That is like a Hawaiian punch pink. Also, we also have Turbulence, that's sort of medium gray, which we love. That's a charcoal gray. That's really pretty. Also, Acai, which is really a purple, but it's a purple with a lot of blue in it, not like a plum purple, but really a grape purple, which is really pretty. Johanna, that color looks great on you. You wear a lot of that, more so than me. And Samba, which is really a beautiful red, and really they're showing a lot of red this season, which I happen to really like. And those are the Pantone colors for fall. Any ideas about that, Johanna? Which ones you're going for?
I love them all. They sound great.
I think
they sound. That we have Samba red. It's good
I
for
like
my
it
dancing.
too. I like it too. You know who else is a deep brunette, Johanna?
Yes, I do.
Dawn Puente is a deep brunette.
That's
right.
And
we are going to be bringing her on to the show in a minute. Lenny, are you ready, or would you like to take a little break before we bring Dawn on? Oh, okay. Oh, she's on the phone. Okay, we have Dawn on the phone with us. Skype is really acting up tonight. So, hi, Dawn. Okay, we're going to call her back. This is our theme tonight, everybody. All right, then, Johanna, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about what you learned today over about Smashbox Cosmetics.
Well, I learned that, they were really made for camera and high definition. But like for me, I happen to have, rosacea, like a reddening of the skin at times, and there's a primer that's green. And you put it on, but when you put it on, of course it's not green, and it just smooths out the tone of my face. So it's not red. And,
I saw that in action.
Yes, you did.
And it really worked great. And I want to say a little something about Smashbox, just to start, that they are really known for their primers. And Johanna, you and I worked with a primer on a man at a seminar. And do you want to talk about how men can wear primer too?
Yes, especially if you're a bald man, which is, very in today, and very hot. And if he feels that he has a little shine on the head, a primer will help that shine, and keep it under control, and it just evens out the whole skin tone from, the forehead and onto the scalp and the whole face, and it just made him look fabulous. He loved it.
He did, and he looked awesome. Now, we are recommending, guys, you can just put on a moisturizer and a primer in the morning, and you will look a lot younger, a lot smoother. It actually bounces the light back. It's not makeup, it's clear. And in fact, Smashbox makes 10 primers because primer is the #1 thing that photo studios want you to wear. So what they want first, Johanna, right, is you put on your moisturizer and then you put on your primer that's made for particularly your skin type.
Right.
Okay, so guys, that's the steps you need to take. And it really works. When you are on camera, if you're interviewing or anything, or you're taking a professional photo, a wedding photo, a photo for LinkedIn, you have to get rid of the shine. Isn't that right, Johanna?
Yes, absolutely.
It really is, because the shine just like takes away. So Johanna and I go to great pains to take the shine away. In fact, another thing that Smashbox is known for is their pressed powder, which I think is called photo. Well, let me show I'm going to show my primer, which is Photo Finish. This is their original primer. It's completely clear and colorless. It is in a tube. It'll last a long time. It's very nice feeling when it goes on. This is their original. They also have a pressed powder that's a yellowish powder that actually not only sets your skin, but it keeps it matte. And it's important that it be matte. So those two products, actually, I wonder, I think maybe guys could wear the powder too. What do you think?
Yeah, as long as I think you can. It just makes it a matte finish, so I guess it would help any shine a man may have.
Yeah, and also another thing that is so great about Smashbox is they're long wearing. Once you put them on, they do not come off. I found that with the eyeshadow, and I'm going to hold up my primer that I bought from Dawn. This is eyelid primer. Johanna and I have very different coloring and skin types. Johanna does not have dark circles. I have darker pigment on my eyelids. So the thing that I have to do is, if you put a colored eyeshadow, if you have a discolored eyelid and you put a colored shadow on, it just looks muddy. The color of the shadow doesn't pop. But if you this is actually like a beige tinted primer on my eyelids, not only will my colors of my eyeshadow stay true, but it will stay on all day and it goes on smooth. Now, Johanna, you didn't have to, you did not, did they use primer on you today?
Yes, she used primer on me today. Did. Now, mind you, my makeup, she finished my makeup, I think it was around 20 to 5, 4:30. And, it still, I assume, looks good.
It does. It looks very good. What did she use for eyeshadow on your eyes?
I know what it's some kind of a pink on the base.
Okay.
And something I think she explained to me more in it, like a copper penny on the eyelid, but I think a little lighter than a copper penny, but it's kind of close to it.
Nice.
And she put like a dark, I guess, plum or purple in the crease.
Nice.
And
it looks really pretty. Okay, well, we're going to talk to Dawn about that when we get back from this short break, Johanna. So hang tight, everybody. Remember to call in. And next up, Dawn Puente.
We'll be right back with more of Looking Good Without Looking right after these messages.
Let's do it. Here we come, here we go. We gotta rock. Easy come, easy go. Now we on top. Feel the shot, body rock. Rockin', don't stop. Round and round, up and down, around the clock.
Global warming is here. The effects may seem slight now,
but in a few decades, they could be massive. What can we do? We can join together, because when many unite as one,
we can achieve anything.
Find out how we can still reduce greenhouse gas pollution. Go to fightglobalwarming.com. Brought to you by Environmental Defense, the Robertson Foundation, and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Judy. And my name is Johnny. We're 10 years old and we're blind. Our dreams are to become scientists.
My name is Catherine. I'm 24 years old and I'm blind. I'm currently in law school, and one day I dream of becoming an attorney.
My name is Bill. I'm 74 years old and I've just become blind. My dream is to remain independent in my own home and not have to go to a nursing home just because I'm blind.
The National Federation of the Blind of New York has been helping blind people achieve their dreams since 1956. Help keep their dream machine running and visit blindnewyorkers.org to make a donation. You can also call them at 718-567-7821. Blind people are your neighbors and colleagues, so learn more about blindness and make your contribution today. Go to blindnewyorkers.org or call 718-567-7821. The National Federation of the Blind of New York. Today's dreams can become tomorrow's realities.
The audience at the Apollo is twice as likely.
The people at my family reunion are twice as likely.
My classmates at Morehouse College are twice as likely.
Many listeners to this radio station are twice as likely.
It's called the odds.
And the odds are African Americans are nearly twice as likely to suffer a stroke as white Americans.
There are steps you can take to help beat the odds. Start by calling 1-888-4-STROKE or go to strokeassociation.org. Join the power to end stroke. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Back to Looking Good Without Looking. Here's Linda.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. We are thrilled to have a special guest with us tonight. Her name is Dawn Puente. She is a beautiful, beautiful lady who is a makeup artist. She is a buyer, and she is the cosmetics department manager for the great Town & Country Apothecary in Ridgewood, New Jersey. Okay, and I want to say that she is on the phone. We will have to wait till next month when we hope she will rejoin us on September 25th to see her on Skype, but we have a lovely picture of her. And I'd like to welcome Dawn to the show. Hi, Dawn.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you? How are you enjoying the show so far?
Oh, it's great.
Do you have any comments about anything that we've discussed to date?
Oh, no. I enjoyed listening to everything you said, especially the comb over. That was great.
Oh, thanks. I think you know what I'm talking about. If you know David Beckham, you know what I mean. It's a good look,
oh,
right?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. It wasn't exactly Thurston Howell, but yeah.
Johanna, you want to say hi to your pal, Dawn?
Hi, Dawn. How are you?
Good, Johanna. How are you doing?
Okay.
Your makeup still looks great.
Thank you. Thanks to you.
Yeah, she looks
Thank you.
great. Dawn, give us a little background. How long have you been a makeup artist?
10 years.
10 years. And have you always been at Town & Country?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. You have brought in a lot of exciting products, including Smashbox. What other lines are at Town & Country?
We carry Estee Lauder, Clinique, Clarins, Philosophy, Bliss, Caudalie, Ahava, B. Kamens, La Mer, and then about 5 different men's lines.
That's great. And you're going to be getting Lipstick Queen. Is this true?
Very excited about that. We're bringing in a new line called Lipstick Queen, and she strictly does everything for lips. Lipsticks, lip glosses, lip stains, lip liners. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, it sounds so great. I want to say something. A lot of people, some people buy cosmetics at the CVS and places like that. Some buy at the department stores. But I think one of the real pluses, and Johanna, I want you to chime in here. I think one of the real pluses of going to Town & Country is that you have multiple lines and you actually will choose between lines, and you are not under any sort of pressure to fill certain quotas for certain products.
No, not at all. I'm under no obligation to sell one line over another. If you looked in my bathroom right now in my makeup box, I have a little bit of everything. I even have things we don't carry in the store.
That's awesome. And you know why we like that, right, Johanna? Is because on this show, we don't pull any punches. We give you the straight scoop on what we like, what we don't like, what works, and how to use it. And that's why, really, Dawn, we're so excited for you to be here. Comments, Johanna?
Yeah, I really like that aspect of Town & Country Pharmacy that, she doesn't have to push one line. She will pick the right cosmetic that will work for you. And I think that's really important.
I do too, because if you've ever gone to a department store, like I've gone, and sometimes they keep talking or taking the conversation back to something that's like let's say a heavy duty concealer, and I'm thinking to myself, do I need heavy duty concealer now? And then you realize, no, they're just trying to, they have to sell 5 today or whatever. So it's really wonderful. And you do such a great job, Dawn. Your products are top notch. The pricing is great. And the service is just bar none. It's just, thank you so much for taking the time with me and Johanna to try to make us look better. Now tell us a little bit about Smashbox.
Okay, so Smashbox, it started out of a photo studio, actually, in L.A. They're the 2 grandsons of Max Factor, the famous cosmetic line. And they started a photo studio. One of the grandsons was a professional photographer, used to photograph celebrities and models and things like that. And then in 1996, they developed the Smashbox cosmetic line.
Okay, sounds good. And
yeah, what they're saying is that if they know it works in tough studio lighting, then it'll work out in the real world.
I think so too. Now, I think you could hear before about how there's such a prevalence for people doing Skype interviews and Skyping and Instagram. What kinds of tips can you give our viewers about what to do?
If they're going to take pictures, then you have to. The first thing you should do is the foundation. The primer. Primer goes first. There are all different primers, like you said. Smashbox makes many of them, and they're all for a different purpose. So when I did Johanna's makeup today, it's called Adjust, and it has a green tint to it. And what it does is cut down on redness. So if someone has rosacea or just any sensitivity where their skin looks more red, you put that on first. And actually, the last time when you both came in, we just did that with the yellow halo powder, and her skin looks beautiful.
It definitely did. It was really amazing. So if you are out there and you feel you have reddish skin, or you've been told you have rosacea, even guys, right? Can't guys use that?
Oh, sure. It'll work on because it's not a makeup. It's just what the green color does is it just cuts the red.
Okay. And in terms of the powder, what can you tell us about that powder? Is it called Photo Finish, first of all?
Well, the pressed powder is called Photo Finish. The Halo is the yellow one.
Okay. And Halo is a new line for them.
No, they've always had Halo. The Halo Liquid Foundation, the HD foundation, is brand new.
Now, what is that all about?
Well, because of all of the HD TVs now, everything is digitally enhanced. It makes the picture more crisp, so you pretty much see everything, which is not always a good thing when you're having your picture taken on TV, because the regular foundations don't work as well as foundations that have they're meant to capture the pigment and to adjust with the changing light and things like that. So the new Halo foundation, that's what it does. It looks good under bright lights and under the camera.
Johanna, are you wearing Halo foundation?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and what are your thoughts about it? How did it feel going on?
It feels much lighter than the regular foundation I use, the Clinique Super Balance. But then again, we were talking, I could be kind of heavy-handed. So I'm hoping when I go back and spend the time with Dawn that maybe she'll teach me not to be so heavy-handed. I'm going to try to learn to use a foundation brush. I'm going to give it a shot.
Johanna, do you want to, for the visually impaired out there, first of all, as we all know, and we've spoken about many times at the NFB, whether you realize it or not, people are always looking at you. And now with TV and the camera and video, it's just become more prevalent than ever. Johanna, what kinds of tips can you give people about choosing foundation? And maybe Dawn, you can talk about that too.
Well, I mean, you have to go to a professional and have it be color matched to your skin tone, because having the wrong foundation color, it just will totally throw off everything. It'll make you look sick, or it won't match your skin of your neck. So you definitely have to have the right color match. And I think foundation's important to wear. I think it evens out the skin tone, but I'm learning now with these primers that it evens out the skin tone enough also. But I think you really have to find the right foundation for your skin type and what you're trying to achieve and how much coverage you need or not need. But definitely you have to go to a professional to get the skin type color.
Primers also, what they do, obviously they even out your skin tone, but what they also do is they reduce the appearance of fine lines and pores, and it gives like a velvety, smooth, even finish. Like I don't know if you guys remember when you came in, I put it on the back of your hand and you felt it. So your foundation glides on it and you actually use less of your foundation.
That's true. And does it make it last longer so it won't streak or fade?
Yes. Yeah. It makes it last longer. It stays on. It prolongs the wear of it throughout the day. And the other thing is, I know, Johanna, you said that you wanted to try using a foundation brush, but if you remember, I showed you the Beauty Blender, and I think for visually challenged people, that would be easier.
Can you describe that Beauty Blender? Because that was really cool looking.
Yeah. It looks like a little pink egg, and what it is, it's actually a sponge. What you do with it is you put it under the water, and it fills with water, and it gets to be about 2 times the size that it is. You squeeze out the excess water, and then you apply your foundation with it. And you don't have to worry about, because as a makeup artist, I tell people you don't put your makeup on with a sponge because sponge soaks up makeup. But by putting the water in it first, it's filled with the water. So it's not going to absorb the makeup. It's just going to allow it to apply it to your skin.
I really liked that little egg. How much are those at the store?
They come different ways. If I remember, we just got them in, and I've done so well with them that I'm almost out of them. They come different ways. There's a set that has 2, There's the biggest set has a full size. They make their own cleanser, and the biggest set has a full size cleanser with the pump top, like a nail salon has, and then 2 eggs, and that one's $39.95. But you can get anything from a small cleanser with the 1 blender. You know, they sell just 2 blenders. I think getting the cleanser is key because you should clean it every time you use it, just to get the makeup out of it.
Yeah, and that's something, Johanna, you always talk about washing your hands when you're putting on different types of makeup.
Yeah, constantly washing my hands if I do the next step or... but now when I go back to Town and Country for her to teach me how to do the makeup I have on, I will try to use that to see which is better for me. And I guess if it's good for me, it'll be good for probably, any visually impaired to see which is easier.
Yes,
right.
absolutely. I can't wait to hear that.
Easier.
Say that again?
I said for myself to apply my own makeup, it's easier. I mean, I'm not as visually impaired. I do wear glasses, and it's pretty strong. But when I put my makeup on, my face is literally 2 inches from my medicine cabinet, from the mirror. So I can't use a brush to apply my foundation because it'll hit the mirror. So the Beauty Blender just allows it that it's foolproof because there's no streak, there's no line. It's just very easy, and I can do it without seeing.
That's awesome. I think that's great. And I think that what we should do is maybe demonstrate a couple of these beauty blenders at some of our seminars, Johanna.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, I want to switch it up a little bit and try to get Lenny involved here. I read some tips, Dawn, about what to do when you're trying to do makeup and things or look good in photography or on camera on Skype. They said here that, of course, wearing a solid top, and they also said that mineral foundation does not photograph well, that it actually absorbs light. Have you found this?
Oh, were you talking to me?
Yeah,
to
you, Dawn.
No, it's funny because I read that they said if you're pale, that you should pick a creamy mineral-rich foundation. But they also said that you should pick one if you're very, like Johanna, I don't consider pale. If you know the people that are that very pale skin, that you should actually go at least 1 shade darker than you would normally pick if you were going to be on camera.
Interesting. So you really need to go to someone, a professional, to understand what color you should use.
Definitely.
Definitely. What about matte versus shine cosmetics?
Depending on your skin type, I have oily skin, but I find as I get older, the matte look is not the best, the complete matte look. I try and keep it as matte as I can. But when you're on camera, you want a little bit of highlighting. Like I did with Johanna today, I just put a little bit of highlight in certain areas so it would catch the light, but not too much so that she's glowing.
Okay, maybe can we go back to a shot of Johanna, Lenny, and then maybe, Dawn, you could say where you applied the highlighter so maybe the viewers could actually see it?
Sure.
Okay. She's up. Go ahead.
She's up? Okay. I can't see her, but I put it on the right above the apples of her cheeks, almost on her orbital bone, kind of, at the very top of where you would put your blush. So not necessarily under her eyes, but right at the very top there.
Okay.
I did put a little bit in the corner where the deepest part of your eye socket is, on the either side of the bridge of your nose.
Okay.
And then I put a little bit in where we like to call laugh lines.
Okay.
Yeah, around there. So you should put it wherever there's a shadow if you're going to be on film.
Oh, interesting. I can, as I'm looking at you, Johanna, I can see that. And Lenny, did you want to say a couple things?
Well, yeah, I don't want to undo what anybody said because Dawn was correct, except that people have to understand that, as an example, Linda and Johanna both, who are on camera, are using lamps in their room. That's what you don't want to do. Okay. But I don't expect people that are going to do anything on Skype you're not going to invest a lot of money in a studio. But to be honest with you, the only way to do it correctly is with multiple lights. You're going to want at least 2 in front, one that's use some kind of umbrella or cheesecloth in front of it. You want to smooth it over, you're going to want a light behind you for backlighting so it shows a hairline, separates from the background. You're going to want different kind of lighting that makes you look good. Now, when I showed Johanna, which we're looking at now, I'm going to give you the negatives, and this is nothing against you, Johanna. It's
No,
just,
I understand.
it's just the lighting, okay?
Yeah.
Because of where the light is in her room, her chin is shining on her, let's see, to me it's left, so it's her right part of her chin is shiny, and the right half of her cheek on her right side, left to the camera, is also shiny. That's because the light is all on the left. That is what you should be able to see. If you're going to do a Skype interview, you should be able to see yourself. Skype will allow you to show you what your camera shows. But you're really going to want even lighting, and you're going to want a nice background. The only proper way to do that is with multiple lights. So unless you tend to invest a little bit in time and money in lighting, I would not ordinarily suggest you do a Skype interview. That's my opinion, but it's very hard to get a good quality picture. Linda, your problem was, believe it or not, I think the quality of our connection is so good that you are diverting to HD, high definition, which is now making your screen smaller because it's wider, and it makes you look farther away, and it also darkened you a bit. So now the lighting has changed from what we originally set up. That's going to depend on people's bandwidth, and without getting into a long dissertation about it, you don't know what kind of connection the person you're talking to has. Therefore, it'd be hard for you to set it up to look its best for them. So again, I would refrain from using Skype unless you really knew what you were doing.
Okay, well, unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't have that option, Lenny, because people are saying they want a Skype interview, so you have to Skype. But I think the one most important thing, if you are asked to do that, and you have to do it, I think the one most important thing is something that Dawn, you and I talked about, which is that when you are Skyping, I have a computer monitor, okay? And Dawn, when we did our test run, she had a monitor in front of her. Johanna does as well, only she can't visualize it. If I am looking actually right into the camera. When you look right in the camera, you are looking into your interviewer's eyes on the other side. If you do not look in the camera and you are kind of like looking, I'm going to look now at my image, and you can see, people with vision can see, if I was in an interview with you and I started looking over here like this at my image, I am not connecting with my subject, so I am not communicating. And I think that's the number one thing to do on Skype. What do you think, Lenny?
No, that's for sure. That's why your camera should be right directly in front of you at the same height as your head. Not higher, which would cause shadow in the bottom of your eyes, darken the bottom of your eyes. If it's too low, we're looking up your nose. So you want it straight, the camera straight in front of you, and you talk directly to the camera, yes. And the other thing you mentioned about the monitor in front of you, shut your monitor off. Unless you have a need to see them, who you're talking to, and you probably don't, it's just their face talking back to you, the best thing to do would keep focus on your camera and shut your monitor off, and it won't throw light and it won't change the Skype call, Lenny.
Oh, that's a very, very good tips. Lenny, do you have any questions for Dawn about makeup or primer?
I don't have any questions other than I would like to see, when it comes to high definition television, Dawn, I would think you'd want to use matte more than anything else, just because the more you can cover up pores pores in your skin that an HD camera sees, you would smooth it out, as opposed to making it more realistic, which in effect HD will exaggerate. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and that's what the primer does, is that it smooths out the pores so you don't see that.
Right, but it doesn't make it cakey either, because that would show up.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, I think I tell you, I loved what you did, Dawn. I thought it was great. And you did mention a couple of things, because I had told you I was kind of like wary of, at my age, wearing glittery cosmetics. And you said there's a difference between glitter and a little bit of shine. And I happen to have a sample of a MAC eyeshadow, and this is kind of like a copper penny-ish color. I'm going to just put some on my hand and hold it up to the camera so people can see that this has like a little satiny finish, Dawn. Do you think that's acceptable?
She can't see it.
Oh, okay. No, but I'm saying, like, do you think like something with a little like a satiny finish versus glitter is pretty good for, photography? Dawn? Oh, we may have lost her, Lenny. I'm not sure.
No, let me see. Her line is still lit, so we'll try here. Hold on a second. You continue.
Okay. Anyway, what I did is I just showed there's a big difference between glitter and satin, right, Johanna?
Yes.
And I just think, if you are on Skype and, like Johanna and I are on camera, she just talked about the colors that she's wearing. They're very natural and soft. I have a little bit of lavender on, and I have a little bit of pink, just because I didn't want it to be muddy on the camera. And I think when you're Skyping, especially on an interview, you don't want to have a ton of makeup on, right, Johanna?
No, but Jill Kirsch had told us that sometimes you got to be a little heavier in the makeup when you're Skyping.
Yes, and I think in terms of blush.
Yeah.
In terms of blush, like I had blushed on before, and those of you who can see, I don't know what the picture quality is like. I went and put more blush on because it's really tricky. But remember, everybody, don't panic. Be yourself. Practice beforehand. Johanna and I'll practice with you, right, Johanna?
Yes, absolutely will.
All right. Okay, good. Dawn is back. Okay, Dawn. We were talking about shine versus glitter. What are your comments about photography and like glittery, shiny, say, eyeshadow?
Well, when you say shiny, you mean shimmery?
I mean shimmery, and I was just demonstrating a little, it's like a satiny color MAC eyeshadow that I had. What's the difference? What should people look for in terms of the type of eyeshadow?
Well, it also depends on your age, because honestly, there are matte shadows, there's satin finish, and then there's shimmer, and then there's actually the sparkly, glittery ones. There's no reason for the sparkly, glittery ones at most ages, unless you're going to a Halloween party. But the satin finish, I find, is a nice finish because you still get a little dimension to the shadow. Because if you use all matte colors, sometimes it actually ages your eye.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that, and I think that what we've learned tonight, and we're almost, believe it or not, Dawn, we're almost at the end of the show. I want to say what we learned tonight is we really need to see a professional, get some advice about primers, get some advice about foundation and how to apply your makeup. Whether you have full vision, low vision, or no vision, everyone can make it to Ridgewood Town and Country Apothecary to see Dawn Puente. And I want to thank you, Dawn, for being on the show. And I want to say, did you have a nice time?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you so much. Johanna, take us out. We'll see you next month, September 25th. Go ahead, Johanna.
Okay, I just want to wish everyone a very happy Labor Day. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. And I'd like to say that the important thing is that if you are going to be Skyping, that you really have to learn some things about it. And I kind of agree with Lenny, if you don't have to Skype on an interview, it may be the better way not to. But if you have to, I think there's a lot to learn. And,
definitely. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye, Johanna. Bye, Lenny. Bye, Lori. See you next month.
Looking Good Without Looking is produced by Linda Zani Thomas in cooperation with the WTOE Radio Network. All words, ideas, and content expressed on the Looking Good Without Looking are solely those of Linda Zani Thomas and not necessarily those of the National Federation of the Blind. the Northeast New Jersey chapter, or the WTOE Internet Radio Network. To contact Linda about your personal style journey, email her at lindazani@aol.com, LINDAZANI@aol.com, or join the Looking Good Without Looking Facebook page.
That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night.
Hi, this is Joe Ruffalo of WTOE Radio. If you are a resident in New Jersey and would like to join one of our chapters or have some more information about our chapters, please contact me at 973-743-0075 or email me at nfbnj@yahoo.com.
Advertise your events on internet radio and podcast free. Need to advertise your club or organization's next event? Whether it's one announcement or different ones weekly or monthly, now you can. ThroughOurEyes.org, using our WTOE radio live broadcast and our podcast, give you the ears of the world. You can take advantage of our free offer in one of two ways: recording your announcement on your computer or calling our toll-free telephone number. Visit our website to learn more. Are you stuck in front of your computer listening to our shows? Well, you may be happy to know that you don't have to be anymore. Hi, this is Keith Zalley, your announcer here at WTOE Radio. Of course, you know we broadcast live on throughoureeyes.org, but did you know we simulcast on Facebook, Ustream.tv, as well as all of our show's host websites? And now you don't have to be stuck trying to catch your favorite show on your computer. You can listen or even watch our shows live right on your smartphone or iPad. During broadcast nights, just point your phone or iPad browser to our mobile site, m.throughoureeyes.org, and click on the Listen or Watch Live link. WTOE also offers many smart apps for your iPhone, BlackBerry, Android, Windows Mobile, or Nokia phones, iPads too, all for free. Visit our main site, www.throughoureeyes.org/appstores.html, and download your free app today. Hi, I'm Keith Zalley, your announcer here at throughoureeyes.org. Thanks for tuning in to WTOE Radio's live broadcast. Our recording session will start shortly. While you are waiting, I'd like to ask all our listeners who have not yet registered at Through Our Eyes to consider doing so. Registering helps us ascertain whom our listeners are, where they come from, if they are blind or visually impaired, as well as other important information which helps us guide us in providing programming that will meet our visitors' needs. I urge all our listeners to register today. It's free and only takes a minute to complete the process. Please read our privacy policy so you can be assured that the information you provide stays with us and only us, and you'll never get any unwanted emails. Well, we're almost ready to begin. Since what you are about to listen to is live, after each recording of the show, you'll hear approximately 15 minutes of music. This is the time we are contacting our next guest for the next show. When the show starts, you'll hear it in its entirety. Our recording sessions usually comprise 3 separate shows, each about 15 to 20 minutes in length, with approximately 15 minutes between each session. So once again, thanks for listening to WTOE Radio Live. Our recording session will start momentarily. I'm Keith Zalley.
the next hour, join Steve and his guests as they talk about topics geared to educate and inform his audience. Listen as Steve brings his unique experiences as an author, business leader, teacher, and law enforcement professional to the conversation. Together with outstanding guests, Steve asks the questions that make a difference in his listeners' lives. You're guaranteed to be better off after you listen to the Kovacs Perspective than before his show started. So, sit back, relax, and see what his show can do for you.
Welcome to the Kovacs Perspective on this August 28th, 2013. Two separate guests will grace our waves tonight. Our first guest is the author of Too Much Togetherness and Reinventing Retirement. You know, it's a book about how to get along for couples after retirement, how to prepare for it, and how to make the best of it when it's occurring. And we'll talk about what the author calls ghosts, gypsies, and generals. These are types of retired people. We're going to find out about what these ghosts, gypsies, and generals are all about. But in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to find out how to prepare for a good, not a lousy retirement. It's a very a good topic to get into because there are many issues with people who retire, men and women. It's not what they think it is quite often. And it turns out kind of a negative situation for many, and sometimes a very negative situation. So we're going to discuss how not to let that happen. Our second guest is an author and father whose son went missing. He went missing. Can you imagine your son going missing? I mean, gone. He'll tell us all about what happened and about his heartbreaking search to find his deeply loved child. And what we're going to get into also is we'll discuss what else the author found during that search. We're going to do both of these. We're going to start right away. 2 minutes and 2 seconds, we'll start. Don't go away. Good show on tap.
We'll be right back with Steve and his guests right after these few messages.
When you go to court, you want a lawyer to speak for you. But in an emergency, when you can't speak for yourself, you want Medic Alert. Its emblem alerts your rescuers to call the Medic Alert Network, where they'll find out 24/7 about any medical conditions or serious allergies you have. Medic Alert will also contact your family. When it comes to your health, you want peace of mind. Get the emblem that speaks for you. For more information, call 1-800-ID-ALERT or visit medicalert.org.
You put your keys between your knuckles. You walk in well-lit areas. Someone approaches you and you grasp your cell phone tightly, ready at any second to dial the number for help. You lock the door behind you, once, twice, maybe 3 times. Now you feel safe, secure. You think you've made the right choices to protect yourself. Think again. Because if you're not making healthy choices, you could be one of the nearly 2 out of 3 women killed by cancer, diabetes, heart disease, or stroke. So eat right, get active, don't smoke, see your doctor, and live. Learn to protect yourself from yourself at 1-866-399-6789 or visit us at everydaychoices.org. A message from the American Cancer Society, American Diabetes Association, American Heart Association, and the Ad Council.
Remember the time you almost volunteered to work in a soup kitchen? Or when you almost visited the Veterans Hospital? Or when you almost brought dinner to your neighbor with AIDS? Remember all the times you almost helped, almost gave? Well, it's only human, this almost giving. But the truth is, it's the same as not giving at all. Don't almost give, give. Visit our website at don'talmostgive.org. A message from the Ad Council.
And now back to the Kovacs Perspective.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Too much togetherness and reinventing retirement. You know, everybody's goal, working person's goal, almost everybody, not everybody, but almost, is to retire and retire somewhere fun, relaxing, cool, great life, right? But the fact of the matter is, quite often, that's not what happens. People get depressed, they get unhappy, husband and wives, couples, man, woman, woman, whatever your preference, they grate each other's nerves, and it turns out to be kind of a nightmare. That's what our first topic is all about. Our guest is Miriam Goodman, an author of Too Much Togetherness and Reinventing Retirement. Miriam, how are you today?
I'm just fine, thank you.
Miriam, you've got to help
I'm sorry
people.
that you're starting it out so negatively, because that is the problem. I mean, people don't, you meet people all the time, they say, oh, I'm afraid to retire, or my husband's not allowed to retire, and everything. And it should be something that people look forward to. You're absolutely right.
Well, tell me first, would you? First of all, you interviewed a lot of people before you wrote this book, correct?
Right, I did.
Who did you interview? I mean, people that have already been retired, people who are getting ready to retire?
I started out, it started out that I was interested in what happened to couples when the husband retired and the wife kept working. So I had a lot of interviews that way. Then I kind of morphed into, well, that seems a little bit too narrow. So I morphed into people who were thinking about retirement, people maybe 5 years, 10 years away. Then I talked to people who are already retired. I did a whole combination. I talked to men whose wives retired, women whose husbands had retired, and they hadn't themselves. It was a whole gamut of things. I got names from friends, and they say, oh, I have this friend in North Carolina. Her husband's driving her crazy. You should talk to her. It was all basically anonymous, because I asked people rather personal questions. Never really revealed where they were from, what their occupations were, anything like that. And I talked to people West Coast and East Coast, and then I said, I think I'm getting a skewed view here, because the people they were complaining. The West Coast and the East Coast people were very much complainers. So I decided to go to the Midwest. I went back to Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is where I'd gone to college, and I had a friend who was still there, and she set me up with several people who were in the situation of almost retiring and wives still working, et cetera, et cetera. One of the women was even on the President's Council for Economic Advisors, and her husband was a retired professor there. And I found out that, indeed, the people in the Midwest were more accommodating of the whole thing. They kind of accepted the situation, whereas I have to tell you, the East and West Coast people complained a lot. It was pretty funny.
Well, no, that's very interesting. So, and I'm from the Midwest. I mean, this show is done. I'm in the Midwest. Headquarters are in New Jersey, and I guess that's the East Coast, right? And then so there's a difference. You've definitely found a difference in West Coast and East Coast and Midwest. That's quite interesting. Before we really delve into that, though, was I correct that quite often retirements are not what they don't
absolutely, and it's unfortunate, because people say this is what I worked 50 years for. It's because we're doing everything differently. We're not doing retirement like our parents did, and we have no real role models. We're inventing this as we go along. We know we don't want to do it quite the way the other generations did. Plus, we're one of the first generations to maybe have 20 or 30 years of retirement ahead of us. It used to be people retired and then they died.
Sure.
Now we have almost as long as our working life. If you retire at 65, it's not, and you're healthy, it's not ridiculous to think you might make it to 95. Now that's a lot of time to be frustrated and unhappy and have regrets and resentments, especially for a couple. And I have to tell you, when I was doing the book tour of my first book, Reinventing Retirement, I went to a place where they have classes for seniors. I don't know if they have them where you are. The Osher Lifelong Learning. It's called OLLI, Lifelong Learning. Anyway, I was invited to speak to a class there, and a woman came up to me afterwards in tears. And she said, just listening to what you're saying, I don't think I was very nice to my husband when he retired. I wasn't very understanding. I wish your second book had been available for me then. And I think I was just in the process of writing the second book. But it really is something that nobody talks about. Nobody's going to say to you, maybe they'll say to their shrink, I'm not happy having my husband around all the time. Or maybe the husband will say, I don't like it that the wife isn't making time for me. I thought we'd be spending every minute together now that we're both home. Nobody talks about it, and you can't even talk to your friends about it. It's like, this sort of dark, dirty secret of retirement that you're not as happy as you're supposed to be.
As you're supposed to be. Now let's get right to the chase here. What are the issues of retirement? What are the potential pitfalls?
The pitfalls are the lack of communication, as they are throughout the marriage. They're the assumption. Just as I mentioned before, the assumption is the husband thinks, well, my wife's complained I haven't been around enough for the kids and for her and everything, and now I'm home, so she's going to spend all her time with me, and she's going to give up her girlfriends and her tennis game and her bridge club, and she's going to be with me all the time. That's the first assumption. That there hasn't been a conversation, it's just an assumption. The wife thinks, well, I have my life, I've carved out my life working for women, and again, this is a generalization, but for women, they've had so many, they're multitaskers. They've worked, they've been mothers, they've been daughters and daughters-in-law, they've been caregivers, they've been volunteers, they've been friends, they've been going to the gym, whatever it is they do. So when they stop working, they still have 12 other things that are in their lives. For many men, they had work. And when they stop working, they don't have anything. They often don't have friends outside of work, or if they do, the social situations have been arranged for by their wives, and they do things with couples. And the men are at a loss. And what I found, and especially in talking to therapists and with men themselves, is that their depression in retirement is not the classic depression that therapists learn about in medical school, let's say. It's not crying, it's not depression, it's not sleeping all the time, it's not complaining about things, no energy. It manifests itself in many, many different ways. And it's hard for even trained professionals to recognize that.
But Miriam, it is a depression. We know that,
It
right?
is. It's definitely a depression, but it's a depression that's in the midst of a denial. You know, if you ask these guys, "Are you depressed?" "Oh no, I'm not."
I got you,
You know,
and I can see that happening.
Really,
Seeing that our time is limited, and I think this is a great topic area to talk about, because there's, I know there's people right now listening, watching, listening, that are saying, "Hey, okay, this makes sense. I'm kind of scared that this may happen to me. I may get depressed, and all this makes sense about my wife's got a life, and I really don't have a life." Miriam, short of picking up your book, by the way, let me mention it again. It's Too Much Togetherness and Reinventing Retirement. You can go to toomuchtogetherness.com, right, Miriam? They can go to that site.
right, and that it's two different books. I hope you're making that clear. Too Much Togetherness: Surviving Retirement as a Couple is the one we're talking about. Correct?
Yeah,
Reinventing
right.
Retirement
And we
is a
have,
general
matter of
guide
fact,
to-
right now,
right.
Miriam, we got your picture plastered all over
Okay.
TV land and your
Okay,
book, so
great.
people see that. But they can go to toomuchtogetherness.com and see what you have to offer. But Miriam, tell the folks now, somebody that's 6 months down the line, he's thinking about retiring, and now he's a little bit nervous listening to us, going, "Well, wait a minute, maybe I had to do another 4 or 5 years. I'll just keep on working at the factory or whatever." How can you start preparing for this not to occur? That you're not going to be estranged from your wife, your partner, and you're not going to be depressed. What are some of the things someone can start doing now?
Well, of course, the first thing is to talk about it, and then to talk about what you really want, because it's those assumptions that are the things that get in the way. Like, I can't tell you how many men assumed the wives wanted to leave where they've been living all their lives and go move near a golf course, because that's what he wants to do. They just assume that. It's absolutely crazy. Or they think that, maybe we should move to be near where the grandchildren are. Well, have they talked to their own kids about this? Do they know anybody in that town? If they move off to Denver, excuse me, is that a place they want to live full time? Do they have friends there? Because those darling grandchildren at 3 and 4 that they're having so much fun with, 5 years from now, they're going to have soccer practice and piano lessons and acrobatics after school, and they're not going to have time for their grandparents. And I think people have to sit down. They have to talk to their adult children. They have to talk to their spouses, and they have to decide what they want for themselves. I was out to dinner with some people this week, and this guy's 59 years old, and he's a dentist. And turns out dentists retire sooner than other people, maybe because they've been on their feet so long, whatever it is. And he's been reading books about retirement. And he says, "Well, I can't retire because you told me a year ago I can't retire until I have something to retire to. I can't just retire from." And I think that's something else that people have to look at. What is it you want to do? Okay, you're going to retire. Maybe you want to sleep in for 2 weeks and maybe take a big trip, and then what? You have to really have a plan. Hopefully you'll have a passion, something that you really want to do. The best advice is whatever that passion is, why didn't you start doing it maybe, on your weekends in your 40s or your 50s so that you can really be sure that's what you want to do? I always say that boomers, every boomer I know, boy, when he was in high school, he wanted to be in a rock band. So if
You wanted to
have
be a
any
what?
interest in that, want to be in a rock band. You want to play rock and roll.
Right, okay.
You know, that's what boomers want to do. So it's not too late. Maybe you've got 3 other friends who want to be in a band with you, whether it's, whether you perform it in your basement or in the garage, or nobody comes to hear you. But, you can rent instruments, you can learn stuff online, you can get a keyboard that you can silence when you're practicing. I mean, there are all kinds of things to do. Do you have a book that you've had in the drawer you want to finish? Do it. But to have something you really, really care about, that's very important. And let me
stop you there. That makes total sense to me. But I got to believe, and I believe you, and that's what I would do. That makes total sense. But I got to believe there's some people sitting there going, hey, I worked at TRW. I worked at Eaton Corporation as a factory worker for 30 years. What do I have, man? All I did is all day, I had a couple beers after work. I can't invent something else in my life. What would you tell somebody?
Why not? Why not? What, you think you have to be a college graduate to be able to do something that you want to do? In research that I did, the happiest people in retirement are the men who had factory jobs or jobs where they felt they had no control over their lives. They are so happy in retirement because for the first time they do have control over their life.
Wow.
So that's the first thing to look forward to. No boss, nobody telling you what to do. Your time is your own. You can really create whatever you want. Now, that creative jump is not so easy. So maybe there are 5 things you want to try. Nobody says you have to stick with it. This is your time. And so you've always wanted to be a photographer, so go get out the camera, start taking pictures, find out, do you want to do darkroom? Do you want to do it digitally? Whatever it is. If it works out, it's fine. You love it, great. Keep doing it. If you don't like that, there are other things that you can do. The thing is, there's no limits. That's the whole idea. There's no limits, that you can do anything you want to do.
So retire to something. You're not fading off to sit in your backyard with a Bud Light staring at the sky 24 hours
Correct.
a day. Okay, that makes sense.
Right,
and plus discuss with your partner, correct, on what we're going to be doing, how our lives are going to be, correct?
Right. You have to discuss that. My favorite story is a guy who retired on Friday, had big party and everything. Monday morning, his wife gets up and he says, "Where are you going?" And she says, "Well, it's Monday. It's my tennis day." He says, "But I retired." They had not had a single conversation. Not one.
That's amazing.
At the party,
That's amazing.
they knew he was retiring. They didn't do anything. And it's really unfortunate. And I have to tell you, the women feel very guilty. The women feel really guilty. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be there. But, hey, it's my retirement, too. It's my life, too. I have things I want to do. And the woman has to have a passion, too. She has to have things that she's interested in. The men also have to not think... I've heard too many stories, Steve, of men who, throughout the marriage, had been partners in housekeeping, child care, everything, shopping, whatever it was. And once they both retire, he just becomes his father. I hate to say it.
He becomes what?
And thinks his wife's going to wait on him.
Oh, geez.
Because that's what he saw happen in his own home, where his mother probably didn't work.
Well, obviously, your book brings these details out more so than we have time, because that's another thing I'd like to talk to you about. I mean, how do you figure that out? I mean, if you're expecting this all to occur, because, for whatever reason, and it doesn't occur, so I'm sure your book covers that, but we only have a minute or two left, and I want to find out, you call some people that retire gypsies and ghosts. What's a ghost?
The ghost is a guy who's sitting around. He doesn't want to ever go out. He wants to stay in the house. He's sleeping. He's drinking more than he used to drink. He sits in front of the computer or the TV, and he seems to have no interest in life whatsoever. That's
good.
what I call the ghost. The general who thinks, he's home now. He's in charge. He knows everything. He knows the better route to get to the supermarket. You've been driving the wrong way for 40 years. He knows how to load the dishwasher better than you do. He knows how to do everything better than you do. And the gypsy is the guy who can't stand being at home. So he's planning trips all the time. Short trips, maybe long weekends, maybe some big vacation to Europe, whatever it is, because he cannot stand to be home with himself, because then he's driving himself crazy and everybody else in the family.
Wow.
So those are three. I also have what I call the grumbler. He's the guy who complains about everything that his partner does.
Boy, these are some bad these are bad things out there, and we don't have the time to exactly hop on each one and what to do. I guess the key, though, again, and correct me if I'm wrong, is communication, retiring to something, not just to nothingness. And what else?
Right,
Is there
right.
another key or two?
What else is to be in the outside world. You have to stay involved in the outside world, whether it means walking down to the stockbroker's office every day and just watching the ticker tape there, but get out of the house, or going to Starbucks, whatever it is. You cannot stay in this isolated world because, first of all, you're going to become boring to your partner when you do that, and you're going to become boring to yourself. You know, I say men should make play dates. Just the way you made play dates for your kids when they were 6 years old, you've got to make play dates with your friends. You've got to find other men who are in this same situation, go out, whether you want to take a walk together, go to lunch once a week, meet for breakfast once a week, whatever. My brother lives in Chicago, but he winters in Arizona. He has found a whole group of, he has some funny name for these old men. Oh, God, I forget what they have some acronym that they call these guys, retired old guys talking or something like that. And he meets with them once a week, and they tell jokes, and they talk about their children and their grandchildren, whatever it is. But it makes him outside. He gets outside of his own little family. And I think that's really important to connect to what's going on. And, you know, the last thing is, this is a generation that grew up with a lot of social struggles. I mean, we know today from the March on Washington anniversary and the civil rights struggles and the women's rights and peace and everything, those struggles are not over. And these are the same people who had those ideas of what we could do to change the world 50 years ago. It's not too late. If you have the skills and the interest and the time and the energy, find something that you can do to make the world a better place.
Well, I mean, that makes so much sense. And you know what? I think you might be lighting a light bulb off for some people, that your life's not over. Just because maybe you got gray hair, which I do, and a little gray in your beard like I do, and you're not as, you're just older. Doesn't mean that you can't do what you just said, Miriam. Makes sense. You know, you were maybe trying to save the world when you were younger, and there's nothing that says you can't restart that again. There's nothing to say. I know a person that just retired, Miriam, and he has turned into a real good writer. He might be listening tonight. I hope he is. His name is Marlin. And he, I believe when he retired, he started writing articles. I don't believe he wrote a book yet, but I mean, I'll tell you, he's a very popular author, and he's really talking about funny things that happen as you get older and retirement and funny, just, bathroom humor, but he's got a life, he's really being a part of it all. And you're saying the same thing.
Absolutely, and it probably makes him more of a social person because he's thinking of things he wants to write about, so he'll talk to people more freely. He'll ask them about their lives because he might want to incorporate that into one of his articles or a column or something like that. It's really anything that you have that energizes you, that obsesses you, really, is going to make you a more interesting person.
But that's very interesting.
That's interested in, yeah.
But that's interesting. Anything that energizes you, I think you hit another nail on the head there for people ready to retire. You can be energized, is what you're saying. Get involved. And, we're talking about that writer. I mean, he's actually making a difference for other people, Miriam. When you write these articles, you engage other people from across the globe. Right. So there's so many things you can do. Miriam, I want to mention your book again. Our time is just about over with, but you bring up a lot of great things here. I think this book could definitely be a help for people ready to retire. So it's called Too Much, ladies and gentlemen, Too Much Togetherness. Now, Miriam, you said it's two separate books?
No, yeah. Too Much Togetherness, Surviving Retirement as a Couple. That's one book. The other book is called Reinventing Retirement, and that's just a general guide to retirement, where you should live, whether you should work again, how you should play. I do touch on relationships there, but it's a whole scope of retirement. The book that we're talking about today, Too Much Togetherness, is about the relationship of a couple and what happens and how they can make their retirement work for both of them.
Okay. Well, hop on her site, toomuchtogetherness.com, see what she has to offer. And I think what I got out of this, and something that I pretty much knew, thankfully, that there's a lot of hope after retirement.
Oh, absolutely, right. There is a lot of hope, and it can be wonderful. I mean, I have a neighbor, I always tease him that he's a poster boy for retirement, because he's interested in so many things, and he's serving on boards, and he's taking classes, and he goes to the opera, and he does things that he didn't have time to when he was working.
There you go.
But I want to reiterate: you don't have to be a professional person to have a great retirement.
Fantastic.
anything
And
is
you
out there
can have a
available.
great retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, let me throw in my last 2 cents that you may want to be prepared. Prepare yourself before you retire. And this may be one of the ways you can do that by going to toomuchtogetherness.com. Miriam, it was a pleasure talking to you. When I'm ready to kind of retire, and I don't know if that'll ever happen, I do 9 billion different things now, but when I do, maybe you'll hear your phone ring and you'll see on call waiting it's me.
Okay,
So
it's
answer
never too
and-
early to get ready, though,
Yes, it is.
You start
All right,
thinking
Miriam,
about it anytime.
Thank you very much, and hope to talk to you soon. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break. This is our longer, harder break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a real serious, touching, really grab your soul kind of story. Very enlightening. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Keith Zalley from the WTOE Radio Network, and right now we're going to take a few extra minute break just so we can save our files for our podcast. So please don't go anywhere because there's going to be more Steve and the Kovacs Perspective in just a few minutes.
Mommy, you sure take the time and do a lot just to keep me safe. Knee pads, baby gates, corner cushions, socket covers, and that fancy car seat for big girls like me. Where'd you find that thing?
The odds of a child being in a fatal automobile accident, 1 in 23,000. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism, 1 in 150. You know the odds of autism. Now learn some of the signs. No big smiles or other joyful expressions by 6 months. No back and forth sharing of sounds or facial expressions by 9 months. And no babbling by 12 months. To learn more of the signs and more about autism, visit autismspeaks.org.
So, Mom, while you're remembering to protect me from the unthinkable, don't dismiss the possible.
Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
They're gonna jump out of trees. They'll go down the slide head first. They'll make parachutes out of sheets. They'll balance on things that are impossible to balance on, like the back of a couch. They'll run with sharp objects. They'll climb things that won't hold their weight. They'll put their fingers in places where they could get smashed. They'll drive their tricycles down steep hills. They'll bounce balls off their faces. They'll step on each other. They'll jump on each other. They'll invent whole new ways to put themselves in jeopardy. But one of the most dangerous things kids will do happens while they're sitting perfectly still. Kids who ride in a car without a booster seat are much more likely to suffer serious or fatal injury during a crash than kids in boosters. But amazingly, 80% of all kids who need them aren't in them. After a toddler seat and until they're 4'9" booster kids, and don't let them down.
Go to boosterseat.gov to learn more about the importance of boosters. A message from the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
Bender, thank goodness you're here. That huge asteroid is headed right towards Earth.
I'll handle this. Like an arrow shot from a man-sized bow, the Red Defender hurtles into space using his super strength to stop the asteroid.
He's stopping the asteroid. It's moving away from Earth. You saved us. How did you do it?
I just stopped the asteroid and reversed its course back into space.
Look, the moon! It's exploded!
Where exactly did you throw that asteroid?
Away. I threw it away.
No more moon. That means no more tides. Tides are created by the moon.
And no more walks in the moonlight. I love walks in the moonlight.
Saving the world isn't easy. Saving a life is. Just 1 pint of blood can save up to 3 lives. To find out more, go to bloodsaves.com. A public service message brought to you by the Ad Council.
Janine Marks, a 12-year-old, was fairly normal. She spent a lot of time online. One day, she met a new friend. The new friend had the same problems at home. They liked the same bands. They worried about the same subjects in school. They promised to keep each other's secrets. They wished they went to the same junior high. The new friend had good news. He said he was going to be in Janine's area one Saturday. He thought it would be amazing if they could just hang out, go to the mall. Janine agreed. The new friend didn't want parents messing this up. Janine showed up alone. So did her new friend, who wasn't in junior high, wasn't nice, and wasn't a 14-year-old boy. Last year, 1 in 5 children was sexually solicited online. Help delete online predators. Call 1-800-THE-LOST or visit cybertipline.com to learn how to protect your kids' online life. A message from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and the Ad Council.
And now back to the Kovacs Perspective.
The father's love. Is there a stronger love than a parent for their children? If there is, I don't know of it, and there may be, but our next author and guest is the author of a book entitled The Father's Love. And it's a saga that he's going to take us on a trip. And when I say us, he's going to take me on this trip with me trying to guide him, because I know very little bit about this tale, this story, but I certainly want to find out. It's about a father that lost his child, and then what happened from there regarding the child and regarding him, the author, the father. David Moore, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing very good. How are you?
I'm doing good. David, I know very little about what occurred with you. And I come from the school is that I would rather not talk to someone I'm going to interview, if at all possible, before I interview, because I want to know, I want to talk to your heart. I want to have a deep conversation with you, not artificial, and I know not a lot. So tell me what happened. How did David Moore, how did your son go missing?
Well, it was December. We were planning Christmas. My son was a freshman in college, and it was a Friday afternoon, and I came home from work. He wasn't home, and that wasn't unusual. He had a campus job, and sometimes would stay after and play basketball. But a few hours later, my wife came home from work, and she found a letter that he had left on his bed. And she hurriedly brought that letter to me, and the letter was this just heartbreaking letter that he left for us, that it explained he was flunking out of college, he couldn't face us with this failure, and that every bird had to leave the nest sometime, and that his car would be parked at the Greyhound bus station in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which was around a 20-minute drive from where we lived. So we hurriedly drove to the bus station, and when I got there, I ran to the door was locked, they had closed 30 minutes earlier. And so we circled the streets, and a few streets over, we found his car. And we knew that he didn't have any money on him, so we knew that wherever he had got off of that bus, he would be broke and he would be homeless.
All right, now he was how old?
He was 18. He was a freshman in college, but he was a young 18. He'd been sheltered, all of his life, and just the thought of him being so desperate, being flunking out of college, can't face us with that, and being that desperate to get on a bus. So we didn't know if he was so desperate to leave like this, would he be desperate enough to even harm himself?
Sure. And that's the first thing that came to my mind, Dave, that, is he going to be suicidal? Okay, so you ran to the bus stop and he was gone, he was gone, or you couldn't get in. So then he did he fall off the map for you? I mean, did you not have any idea where he was?
Yeah, basically that's what happened. We had no clue where he went. We took his car home and we began to call everyone we knew, family, friends, his girlfriend. And eventually his girlfriend would call us back after we left a message on her phone, and she would tell us that he had mentioned the city of Dayton, Ohio, which was around a 3.5-hour drive from where we lived. So I just, being the only clue I had, I figured I had to go to Dayton, Ohio. So without any plan, without any other clue, I just filled my truck up, went to the bank and filled up on money also, and headed for Dayton, Ohio about 9:30 at night.
And then you got to Dayton, Ohio, which is not far from where I'm at, Dave. It's probably about a 3-hour drive from me, too. I'm the opposite way of you. I'm in northeastern Ohio, like in the Cleveland area, so I know what you're talking about. So you get to Dayton, Ohio, you drive down the highway there, you get into that lakefront community, and what do you see? What do you find?
Well, when I was about halfway to Dayton, my wife and my son's girlfriend had begun to go through his room to try to get a clue of the things he might have taken with him or anything else they might find. And they found an address in the trash can in his bedroom. They looked the address up on the internet, and it was an address of a homeless shelter in Dayton. So knowing that he had no money, and thinking that he had no place else he could really go, I thought that that had to be where he was at. So when I arrived in Dayton just after midnight. I saw a police officer, and I pulled over to where he was at, told him what I was doing, and he took me to the bus station first. And we got there around 12:30 at night. The bus station had, again, just closed before I got there. They closed at midnight, so there was no one around. So I gave him the address to the homeless shelter, and he took me there, which was straight down the road from the bus station. So I rang the buzzer at the homeless shelter, and the man at the other side of the buzzer, he asked me my son's age. I told him 18, and he told me that my son, being an adult at 18 years old, he couldn't tell me if he was in there or not. He said, what I can tell you is that at 7 o'clock in the morning, we make everyone leave. So if your son's in here, he'll come out. So I waited outside the homeless shelter until 7 o'clock in the morning, and everyone began to pile out of the homeless shelter. But my son wasn't one of those that was in there. So I'd sat outside the homeless shelter all night long, and my son wasn't there.
I'm kind of angry at the manager of the shelter there that made you go through that. Apparently, he knew he wasn't in there. But okay, that's another story. At this time now, how long has he been gone?
Well, from the time that we knew that he left, it was over. We found out about 6 o'clock at night. So now it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Or 7 o'clock in the morning. It's been 13 hours.
13? No, I'm talking about 13 hours from the time you found out he's running away. Let's call it that.
Yes, from the time we found his letter.
Okay. How are you feeling now? Because I mean, I know you're thinking about suicide, right? I mean, that he might have killed himself or trying to, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a pessimist anyway, and so yeah, I was thinking the worst. What have I done to push him to this point? Did I push him too hard in college? What is he thinking? I knew there was a high suicide rate for freshmen in college. I had seen that before. So yeah, I'm thinking the worst. If he's this fearful or this afraid to come to me, and he's this desperate to run, could he have harmed himself? Yes, I was afraid.
Okay, so you stayed up all night, and nobody, your son didn't come out. What's your next step?
Well, I began to talk to the homeless people as they came out and describing my son to them. None of them had seen him. But it was 10 degrees out, and they told me that they were all going to the day shelter to stay warm, and if my son was anywhere in that city, that he would have to go there. So I went to the day shelter with the homeless people, and I stayed there until about 8:30 in the morning because I knew the bus station opened at 9 o'clock. So my son never showed at the day shelter, and then right before 9 o'clock, I went to the Greyhound bus station so I'd be there when they opened, and I got in line. And I went inside and finally got to talk to somebody at Greyhound for the first time. And he looked my son's name up on their computer, which he wasn't supposed to do. But he found out that my son had purchased his ticket to Atlanta, Georgia, which was now 8 hours away from where I had spent the night.
8 hours. That's speeding. I mean, that's That's
Yep.
So I mean, that's a trip. So what did you do then?
Well, I had been up. I had worked the morning before. I'd been up all night long, and I hadn't eaten. I hadn't slept. I hadn't drank any water. Nothing. I was literally falling apart. And now I got this bad news, and literally, I was just, my knees started shaking. I just fell to the ground because I was just. It was devastating. And I called my wife, and we decided that I couldn't make it to Atlanta, so I decided to drive home. I drove about a mile north, heading back towards Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I realized that my son was in the other direction. There was no way I could go home, so I made a U-turn, and I started heading south, figuring somehow, some way, I had to go to Atlanta. I had to make it. That's where my son was at, so I had to go there.
All right, so you made it to Atlanta, and I'm assuming, and then what happened in Atlanta?
Well, after I drove a little while, I realized one of my best friends in the world, Larry, lived in Lexington, Kentucky, which was right on my way to Atlanta. And I called my friend up, and my friend Larry was sitting right next to the phone. He said he's never home on Saturday. He'd be sitting right next to the phone. And so he told me to come and pick him up, and he was going with me. So I picked my friend up, which really saved my life. And together we went to Atlanta and we started the search there. We initially went to the bus station where we found out his ticket had been purchased to. We went to that bus station. We began our search there. We called the Atlanta Police Department. They came down. They made a report, gave us homeless shelter lists, and we just began our search in Atlanta then. Searching under bridges, searching the homeless shelters, walking the streets. But like the Atlanta detective had told me, it was like searching for a needle in a haystack. It's such a large city. There's so many homeless people there. And just everywhere we looked, there was no sign of him. There was no clue. It really was just like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Dave, and how are you feeling now? Were you a religious man at that time?
No, I wasn't. I believed in God, but I wasn't in church. I never was raised in church. I had no relationship with Jesus Christ. So no, I wasn't calling out to God to help me. Although my wife was raised in church, and I would find out from her that her father-in-law, who was a national evangelist, was in prayer. He had churches in prayer, and I would find out they had started something called a prayer chain, which I had no idea what that was, but I would find out later that this prayer chain would stretch all across America, and these people that didn't even know me were calling out to God, asking God to move mountains to bring my son home safely, and me too.
And still at this point, though, you're not praying, you're not dropping to your knees saying, God help me kind of thing. Okay.
No. I mean, my whole life I had handled everything myself, and so I thought that I could fix this problem too.
Okay,
and I was finding out
tell me what
that
happened next.
was becoming impossible to do.
Okay, tell me what happened next.
Well, after searching Atlanta until the early morning hours of the next day, with no clue, we started to realize, Larry and I, that this really was like looking for a needle in a haystack. He could have gotten off the bus anywhere between Ann Arbor and Atlanta, where he purchased a ticket, or when he got off the bus in Atlanta, he could have begun hitchhiking to Florida, for all we knew. So we finally decided, according to the recommendations of the Atlanta Police Department, to go back to Michigan and file a missing police report there and begin our search back in Michigan. So that's what I did. I took Larry back to Lexington, and I drove back to Michigan and began my search from there.
Amazing. Keep going, Dave. So you're back home, and then what happens?
Well, we started the search from there. We filed our missing police report on Monday morning. It began on Friday night, and now this is Monday morning. And we filed our missing police report. The state police crime lab came into our house and went through our computer, searching for any place that he might have been in contact with someone that might have lured him away. And I went up to Eastern Michigan University, where he was a student. I talked to the administration. I stood before his classes and talked to the students. We posted his picture all over campus and all over Ypsilanti, the town we lived in. We had his picture faxed to every police station from Michigan to Florida, and we're still calling friends and family and homeless shelters all over Georgia, trying to find any clue at all that we have. But we have no clue, nothing at all, and nothing to go on, no idea yet where he's at.
Well, David, I mean, obviously you were one of those guys that kind of could do everything on their own, or so you felt, because what you've just explained to me, you really did a lot. I mean, you really were covering all the bases. Now, anytime during this time yet, are you thinking about God or anything of that nature, or not yet?
No, I'm really not. Like I said, my wife is talking to her parents, and they're praying, and other people are praying. But no, I had no relationship with God, so I wasn't really calling out to God at all. I still felt that this was something that I could solve. I was going to do everything it took, and I knew somehow I'd figure it out. But I was getting more and more desperate. I even was getting so desperate that I contacted a friend of mine that had talked about visiting a psychic, and I made an appointment with that psychic, and that was something that I didn't even believe in, but I was getting desperate.
Okay, now we've got about 10 minutes, so I'd like you to get closer to the time. I'm assuming, and I may be wrong here, that you did find your son?
Yeah, well, it was the fifth day now. It was now Tuesday. And I had, I had visited his campus, began trying to talk to students and talk to everyone possible. And I was getting ready to go out the door to the psychic appointment. I'd been calling shelters after I got home from the university. And I was so desperate, but just as I got ready to walk out the door to go to this psychic appointment, something stopped me, and just something in my spirit just said, call one more name on the shelter list. And I didn't understand it, but I just turned around, I walked back to the table where the shelter list was at, and I picked the list up, and we'd been checking the names off, and the next name on the list was the Atlanta Church of God. And so I called that next number, and a lady named Paige answered the phone. And I began to tell Paige everything that I'd been doing, how I went from Ann Arbor to Dayton to Atlanta, all the things that I had done. For some reason, I felt like going deeper this time, and I just began to tell her everything, all the police departments involved, and going to this campus and talking to his classes. And I just told her everything, more than I told anyone before. And she was crying on her end of the phone, and I was crying on my end of the phone. And when I finally finished, Paige, this Christian woman who was, sitting there listening to me, wanting to help, she said to me, she said these words, she said, "Sir," she said, "I don't know you." She said, "But if you come back to Atlanta searching for your son, you come straight to this church." She said, "You can stay with us." She said, "We'll feed you, we'll give you a car, we'll put somebody in the car with you that knows the streets of Atlanta, and if your son's here, we'll find him." And so I just thanked her and hung the phone up. And there in front of me, as I hung the phone up, I looked in front of me on the kitchen table, and there was a Bible sitting there. And my wife had put it there. And I saw that Bible, and I just picked that Bible up, and I held it up in the air, and I pointed it towards heaven. And I said, "God," I said, "I want to be just like this lady." I said, "I want to always be part of the solution, never part of the problem again." I said, "If you'll save my son, I'll serve you for the rest of my life. I'll never leave you. I'll always be part of the solution, never part of the problem again." And I set that Bible down on the table, and the phone rang, and my son had come home.
Wow. Where did he call from?
We had been in contact with all of his friends, and his friend Ross called me right at that moment when I set that Bible down, and he said, "David's home. He just got off a bus in Ann Arbor, and he's in my apartment." And so it was just the second I surrendered my will for God's will and set that Bible down, and that phone rang, and God gave me the answer to my prayer right there. It was amazing. And I just fell on my knees, and I threw my hands in the air, and I just began to thank God, and I had a pack of cigarettes in my pocket. I pulled them out and tore them up and threw them away. I told God, never again. And right there on the spot, I just got delivered from smoking, from drinking, from hatred, from anger, from so many things that I had been living with and living for at that moment. God delivered me from right there at that moment.
And tell the folks what you do now. For a living.
And now I'm a chaplain. I serve through the Church of God. I'm an altar worker. I work with a pastor. I do visitation, and I surrendered my life to God, and now I serve Him. And my son, after coming home, he returned to Lee College, and he became a pastor himself, and now he's a pastor working out of the Abundant Life Church of God in Lakeland, Florida. And my wife returned to God after that. So our whole family turned to God after this and surrendered to God, and now we're all in service to God.
Why did he leave? Was he just overwhelmed with life at that time?
He didn't know how to face us, as the letter had stated originally. He was failing. He didn't know how to face us with this failure, and he didn't feel he could come to me. And I'd been a hard father all those years. I'd had anger issues. It was always my way or the highway. I guess my son had felt like I hadn't kept the lines of communication open. He was going through this problem, and he couldn't come to me with it. So he felt like the only thing he could do was run.
Hey, Dave, it's kind of refreshing to hear somebody just say all the negatives that you were and where your life was. How old were you when you changed, when this transformation occurred for you personally?
I was 46.
All right, so you're 46, and is it fair to say that you've changed like 70% you're different about 70% after
I'd probably say 100%. I mean, I used to be someone that wanted to solve everything with their fists. I thought I was an angry person. I mean, now I worked in a needy shelter for the hungry for about 9 years. I would have never done that before. Just so many things. My life is like night and day now.
Well, and that's what I want to get to, and I think that's a big part of this story. So you were like 46 years old, and you say you changed about 100%. I don't believe you. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you, but I'm saying let's say 90% even. So at 46, people can still change from being negative and angry and just not, kind of bunched up. They can still change, huh?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, as an example, I had been in arguments there were 4 guys that I worked with that I had basically called out to meet me somewhere off work ground so I could fight with them. And the day I went back to work, like 2 days after my son come home, I went back to work, and I went to those 4 guys who I would have never even talked to. I went to them and asked them to forgive me. And they just looked at me with this unbelief in their eyes, and basically all 4 of them started crying and hugged me and told me they did forgive me and would I forgive them. And so this was this is a basic principle in the Bible, forgive and you shall be forgiven. I didn't even know that, but it was in my spirit at that point that I had to go to these guys and ask them to forgive me. I was a changed man.
Dave, how many years have gone by since this happened?
10.5 years.
So, I mean, it's not a flash in the pan. You've made a fundamental change. You were a tough guy or whatever you want to call it, anger. Now, Dave, this is going to be a simple, I hope you don't give me a real simple answer, but whatever. I mean, it is what it is.
Okay.
I know you believe God changed you, and I'm not disputing that, but can you crystallize that a little bit more? I mean, why did God do for you that, and will he do that for somebody listening in Naples, Florida right now? Why did he do it for you, and can he do it for other people?
I think that God is always looking for ways to reach us. And I think he had tried to reach me throughout my life at different times, and I had rejected that. And this is what it took for me, was for me to come to a desperate place where I finally surrendered my will for his will. And I cried out to him, broken and in need, and cried out to God. And when I did, God heard that cry. God knew my heart, and God answered that prayer. And then in answering that prayer, it changed my life. And I believe that anyone, if they will come before God and they will surrender and just say, God, not my will, but your will be done. And I believe God will answer that prayer, and God will change their heart just like he did mine.
Let me ask you a question to further what you're saying. Let's say somebody and we'll use Naples. I don't know why that's on my mind. I missed the beach at Naples. I love it there. But let's say somebody in Naples, he's got anger issues. He's got issues with his family. He's just not real happy. And he has at times said, God, please help me. And nothing happens. And then 3 days later, he's back to doing what he's doing. And every now and then he goes, God, help me. What do you recommend a guy, and I'm putting you on the spot, Dave, but you know something? You are at a point in your life that you know a lot. And it's kind of your duty, I'm being bold to say this, to share that knowledge that you have. So what's a guy in Naples that says every now and then, God, please help me? And then he goes back the next day. Does he every day humbly ask for God to help him? And it's going to kick in one day, or help me here. Please help me.
I think from my own experience, and I've told other people the same thing, when you need God, get on your face and desperately cry out to God. And I think that when you come to a place where you truly want God and you truly cry out to God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength, God understands you then. God hears that cry, that prayer. But you have to cry out to God with all you have. And I think that's what I did. I've done that since then. My son was injured after this incident in a flag football game, and he had a broken neck and a torn esophagus. And he was in the hospital, and they were about to do emergency surgery. And I fell on my face out in the parking lot at the hospital, and I cried out to God desperately. And then when I came back into the hospital, it completely changed. The next set of x-rays said his neck wasn't broken, and they put a tube down his throat and said, this is impossible, there has to be a hole there, but there's not. But see, I fell on my face before God, and I desperately cried out to him. And when I did, God answered that prayer. And I think when we're desperate before God, when we cry out to God with all of our heart, God hears that prayer.
Well put. Well put. How can people get a hold of you, Dave? Not only where can they buy your book, let's say if somebody wants to talk to you. I got to believe they want to send you an email. I'm sure you're going to talk to them. How can they get a hold of you?
My website, www.thefatherslovebook.com. You can contact me there with questions. You can see more information about me, about the book, but they can definitely contact me through that website, thefatherslovebook.com.
Okay. Dave, what I enjoyed about our roughly 30-minute conversation was the journey that you did take us, your emotional feelings and where you were and what happened. It's a very intriguing story that you have to tell. Ladies and thank you, Dave, for being my guest. The Father's Love, ladies and gentlemen, is the name of the book. thefatherslovebook.com. Pick it up if kind of stirred you like it did me. David Moore, great guest. Thank you very much for being my guest today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to be here with you. I love telling the story.
Okay. Hope to talk to you again, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this particular show, second and fourth Wednesday of every month. We are here 9 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. Hop on the Kovacs Perspective.com because we have some other things going on there. Visit and leave me any comments that you may have. I'd love to hear from you. I enjoy that. Until next time, so long.
Kovacs Perspective is brought to you by the WTOE Radio Network at throughoureyes.org. All WTOE shows are available as a podcast. Visit our podcast page to learn more. The Kovacs Perspective was written by Steve Kovacs, directed by Tom Bendewald Jr., technical director and audio engineer Len Azzarone, assistant audio engineer Lori Viscuso. For more information about the Kovacs Perspective, visit www.allsourcesecurity.com. All words, ideas, and comments expressed on the Kovacs Perspective are those of Steve Kovacs and not necessarily those of the National Federation of the Blind, the NFB Northeast New Jersey Chapter, or the WTOE Radio Network. Until next time, I'm Keith Zally.
Done it again.
That's all, folks.